Bro, they actually did it. They are actually doing it. Have faith in Studio White Fox, and you are rewarded. This was my biggest concern, honestly, going into ReZero Season 3. If Studio White Fox could remain consistent with the art and animation, because it's very clear by just, the opening song. Anyone that has sat down and watched this opening song, I mean, I just watched it, like, I just first time watching it, I've already seen it like 5 times in a row. It's a really good opening song, and I'll talk in depth about this in just a second, but this opening obviously highlights that it's going to be a very battle-orientated arc. Like, literally a big chunk dedicated to this, this opening is literally just seeing very iconic and very powerful characters within the ReZero verse just battling it out with the Witch's Cult. And by the way, this frame here with Priscilla, oh wait, no, like, oh, that's a good frame too, but like, look at this frame, yo, it looks so good, man. It looks so good. So, let's get right into this. So basically, one of the biggest concerns, at least I had, I don't know how widespread this concern was, but it was definitely a concern, because it's like, ReZero Season 1 and Season 2 of the anime, you know, it was very talk-orientated, very, slice-of-life-ish. Yes, there was action moments, you know, let's think of Sloth stuff, or the White Well and all that, or some of the scenes throughout Season 2 as well, with, you know, Garfield versus Elsa. You know, we know that, yes, there's fights within ReZero, but they're not the primary focus. It was always very obvious, anyone watching ReZero, that the fights were more or less the side piece to a very good arc. Well, Arc 5, that's the arc we're currently on with the anime of Season 3 of ReZero, it definitely puts the action more in the forefront. And this episode, this opening, and this ending definitely showcases that. It definitely wants to put it in your face that, yes, this is going to be a very action-orientated season, which is what I already talked about when I was talking about, like, you know, what to expect from Season 3 a while ago. But just looking at the overall visuals of what Episode 2 of Season 3 has to offer, it legitimately, like, just take a look at this. Like, it looks really good. And this is just early on. To be completely blunt with you, this isn't even, like, the most important scene of this season. It is bottom tier in terms of, like, important. But it is still important because it showcases Emilia's character development, a little bit about serious romantic conti and all that, and what drives her, what gives her unending and unyielding wrath as well. There's a lot of things to really take away, but this scene in particular looks really good, and this is just very early on, and I want to remind everybody that Season 3 of ReZero, apparently, according to leaks, and we can assume it's official because ICE is the one that gave it, it's going to have 38 episodes. So, we know we're going to have, like, multiple cores, like at least 3 to 4 cores of ReZero Season 3. We know we're going to cover Arc 5 and then eventually Arc 6. Judging by the current known information, it seems like Core 1 and Core 2 will be covering Arc 5, which means about 18, I believe, episodes, maybe 20-something episodes, I could be wrong there. Like, there's gonna be, like, you know, a good little portion of, you know, the season dedicated to Arc 5, which is good. There is enough episodes there to really tell a good story, and since, you know, obviously it is very action-orientated, there doesn't need to be a lot of time delegated to certain scenes, since most of it is displayed through the action. Because, like, when you're reading the light novel of ReZero, you're seeing, like, you know, Tape, the author of ReZero, he's outlining what characters do. It's like, oh, the character attacks from the right, and then swiftly moves their, you know, sword down to the left or whatever. You have movement, like, you know, dialogue like that within the novel. Well, that doesn't need to be in, you know, like, the show, because you could just see it visually through movement, like what Emilia is doing in this scene. So, like, there's a lot of dialogue that can be cut down from the novel into the anime, and so the current time frame of, like, how many episodes, you know, Arc 5 is going to be covering, it's perfect. Absolutely perfect, and we're already starting off very, very good with Episode 2 of ReZero Season 3. Now, with all that being said, and my concerns of potentially the action, you know, kind of, dwindling now. I mean, I had small, it wasn't really that huge. It was just, I was curious to see what they're going to do with it, because this is going to be a very demanding season of ReZero. I see no problem. So let's shift gears into the censorship part, because that is honestly what really caught me by surprise when I was, watching this episode. So let's get into that. So talking about the censorship, I am legitimately blown away by just how much was shown in this episode. Now, to be fair, ReZero has showcased a lot of violent scenes throughout its first 2 seasons. I mean, let's think of some of the stuff that happened in Season 1 with Elsa. Let's think of the stuff that happened with Sloth at the end with, Rim. There's a lot of horrific scenes within Season 2, like the White Rabbit scene, and just, like, what happens with so many other fights he has. It's very clear that Subaru has experienced very violent moments, and, there's been a lot of moments that has been extremely crazy in anime form. But the thing is that Studio White Fox has always tried to some degree, they skirt around, the violence. Like, for example, in ReZero Season 1, I recently went back to watch the director's cut of ReZero. There is definitely a lot more violence in the original OG airing. But you can see with some animation and art techniques that they did with Season 1, that they'll hide, let's say, like, Subaru missing his arm or something behind, like, a furniture, or a railing, or some form of chandelier. You will see that they will, darken it out and try to hide the invisible wound that Subaru has on his person, or other characters have as well. This is an animation technique to kind of skirt around censorship and to allow, an episode to air in an earlier broadcasting bracket. That's why it's done. And obviously the reason why, the director's cut was able to skirt around this even more is because it was something that came out much later after the anime broadcasted on TV. But, there was always moments throughout Season 1 and even 2 to where Studio White Fox wanted to get around the violent content to some degree to be able to leave it uncensored, but they didn't fully show it sometimes. Well, in this episode, it seems like their very take on the violence is more show than they ever have been. And I think that in the grand scheme of things, this is the perfect season for them to do that, since it is a very battle-orientated season. It's going to be very heavily focused on the action. It's going to be heavily focused on the fights and everything like that. So having more of these violent moments being showcased without any censorship, I do appreciate. I mean, we do get something that honestly, I was a little bit, I'm not gonna lie, I jaw-dropped when yeah, you see the scene. I jaw-dropped when I saw this in today's episode. Like, I knew it was gonna happen, like, I remember it, but I thought they were gonna, like, try to not show exactly everything, just imply, but not show everything, but they literally have Subaru, yeah, you see it. I can't say it because YouTube would not like it if I said the words, but it's very apparent, like, just the way everything looks. I was just in shock of what White Fox showed within this episode. I was just like, huh? Like, what the hell, White Fox? Like, what the hell? Like, honestly, all things considered, this has to be one of the most violent ways Subaru's life has ended in the series thus far. I mean, still to this day, the most violent would probably be, currently right now, at least for the anime, is the White Rabbit. I mean, FYI, for some cursed knowledge, when he was dying to the White Rabbit in Season 2, one of them literally went up his booty hole and ate him from the inside out. So, yeah, you're welcome for that cursed knowledge if you're unaware of that. But, yeah, in the novel, it basically says that's what happens to him. Anyways, yeah, that's definitely one of the worst deaths he's probably experienced, but I will say that this is definitely a traumatizing end, because imagine the fear and the overwhelming fear at that from this death, because it's like that the kid's fear is, bouncing into Subaru's fear is bouncing into the kid, and it's just like, you could just see the terror as Subaru's literally talking about, like, how he feels in that moment, how overwhelmed he is. This is gonna leave him traumatized going forward. Like, what a way to really have an encounter with an authority. One of the witches cults and archbishops. It's like, it's definitely one of the most, violent ways to encounter one, just like how it was with Sloth. Because, like, Subaru's first meeting with Sloth was, Rim getting twisted. So, this is kind of like his first meeting with Sirius, and obviously this is a very overwhelming amount of emotions as well. So it's like, it's very clear anytime that Subaru encounters them, it's just really bad, man. It's bad news, dude. There is just nothing good whatsoever. It is the most violent thing that you could possibly think of that's gonna happen to this poor man. So let's shift gears and let's talk about that opening sequence of ReZero. I really want to dive into this and really just discuss kind of what it's doing and, really talk about what makes this very special. So when it comes to ReZero opening songs, it's a very special time within the anime community, and mainly the ReZero community, because it's our characters that we know and love from the series being animated once again with music overlaid on top of it. And usually when it comes to opening songs of ReZero, and especially ending songs as well, they're very symbolic. Like, one song to this very day that sticks with me, and I love the symbolic nature of it, is Realize. Realize, the first opening of Season 2, was something that was... It told the full story of what Season 2 was going to be about, without really being on the nose. Like, anyone that was informed knew what the opening was saying. Anyone that could read in between the lines could definitely see it. But, it was just a very smart opening. And I love ReZero openings because, they don't play often. Anyone that watches ReZero knows this. ReZero will have, an opening song introduced on episode 2 or episode 3, and then it'll go on for 4 or 5 episodes without an opening song. And so when you do get one, it's a very special time to really just appreciate what we got and talk about the message and the theme of what to expect from the upcoming season. And so going into this, I'm not going to discuss every little nitty-gritty detail of this opening because of spoiler reasons, but I will point out a few things that definitely do need to be pointed out. For one scene in particular, I want to point out this. This is Sirius Romanicanti, the Sin Archbishop of Wrath, obviously in the clock tower that we see the main scenes going on right now with Season 3, and you can see how she's ticking, like a grandfather clock. She's hanging upside down, and if you look at the silhouette of, where she's in, it looks like a tarot card. Anyone that's affiliated with tarot cards like the World, Death 13, the Hangman, you get the point. This definitely looks like something being implied here with one of those cards. Now, I was sent 2 side-by-side images today of this scene with a tarot card with Fortuna on it. Now, I don't know if this is official art or not. I'll probably have the thing on screen. You could see it and check it out for yourself. But, I don't know if it's official art or not, but it does imply there is some form of deep connection being made. And even if that tarot card is not official art, I will say, at the very least, it's very obvious what's being implied here with this scene symbolically. It is, I'm assuming, the Hangman, the reverse Hangman tarot card. That's what this looks like to me. Or the Tower. It could be the Tower as well. Anyways, the point I'm getting at is that Fortuna and Sirius definitely look very similar, okay? Their eye color's the same, they both got white hair, it's very clear that she is unhinged to the same degree as Sloth was, Petalugius, before, he became Sloth. And we know that, with the interaction she currently potentially had with Sloth, there was some form of love between them. And we know Fortuna and, Petalugius, they loved each other. But we know what happened. We know the end of the story. Petalugius accidentally killed Fortuna, and then, Pandora, took control of Petalugius' mind and warped him to a degree, and he became the Sloth that we knew. What's to say that with how strong and powerful Pandora is, she's literally she's crazy. What we saw demonstrated from Season 2, that she wasn't able to do something with Fortuna's body. I mean, looking at the way, Sirius's skin looks in the visual department of episode 2 of ReZero Season 3, her skin looks very burnt. We see in Showcase that she uses fire, some form of, chaotic, wrath-like fire within the episode when she's fighting Emilia, and it's clear that she probably has burnt herself to some degree, and the bandages around her is trying to hide these burn marks or whatever. There's a lot of ways to really look at this, why would she hide her face if, is she sad about the way she currently looks? Does she think that, if someone looks upon her face, even if it's burnt, she's unloved, or nobody will ever love her? Is she feels like if she shows herself to, for instance, if Sloth was still around, would he not like her because of the way she looked? There's a lot of ways. But whatever the case may be, it's very clear that Sirius and Fortuna have some form of, even if it isn't a direct link, there is some similarities there. And for anime onlys worrying that I'm spoiling you, This isn't a spoiler. This is just a theory, and this is literally when this happened in the light novel and web novel for the first time, literally in this scene. Everybody was talking about it in the community. It's been a very well-known debated topic literally when this first scene came out. So literally the reason why I'm discussing this theory in this conversation now is because that's when it actually happened, when the novel and the web novel came out. This is, like I said, it's not a spoiler. It's legitimately just a discussion at the time. I'm not going to say any more on that though. So the opening right here actually feels very, battle shonen orientated. And I think that is the perfect vibe that White Fox is trying to give this opening, because it's like, as I said, this is an action themed season of ReZero, and because it's going to be very action orientated, it having an opening song that reminds you of a battle shonen is perfect. You have all the star players like walking onto the stage, every main royal candidate, basically any of the main characters that we have known for a while stepping onto the stage. Even Reinhardt is here, the broken man himself, and I'll talk more about him in a second because of his scene within the episode. But, just all the major players coming onto the stage, getting to see the city, and then as all the characters are, you know, getting into position, you see where the very environment shifts. Like, for instance, this scene is really good. Like, you see how we just have, like, the current problems in the background, and then you see everything become destroyed. Like, the city that was once beautiful and prosperous becomes this hellscape on fire, the buildings crumbling. It just showcases the very turn, the actual 180 to the environment and what the Sin Archbishops are about to cause to this whole city. A lot of people are potentially going to get injured or even die. It's going to be a very dark season, and so I like that. Like, the star players, the first star players pop up, and then you have the villains take the stage, and obviously this wasn't a really well-kept secret. I mean, a lot of the key visuals as well basically showcase them, but it was obvious for a while, at the very least, that we were going to have multiple Sin Archbishops in Season 3 of ReZero. I mean, we saw Regulus Corneus here and all that, and then we saw, like, you know, Gluttony as well, and then, you know, now having Sirius Romaniconti introduce herself as Wrath, we can only assume that this is obviously another Sin Archbishop, which technically has already been revealed with a PV. She is lost. So, yeah, we know there is 4 Sin Archbishops in this town, and we've only seen Subaru have to deal with 1 at this current time. And even then, at this moment, it's still not settled. The episode ended off with Emilia being captured by Greed, and Sirius still standing there as well. Like, we see how bad of a situation it currently is for Subaru. I mean, he struggled so much just to face Sloth. Imagine fighting not just 1, not just 2, but 4 Sin Archbishops back-to-back in the same place, all with different authorities. Like, you gotta imagine this. Like, Sloth's authority was the unseen hand. He was able to have multiple hands come out and grab people, nobody else can see it. We saw that he could shift from body to body as well because of, like, you know, how he can use his, you know, magic. And then we see Sirius's ability. She's able to, you know, brainwash or soul wash people and force her will upon people and emotions to ricochet off of everybody's body to where they become soul linked, to where if one of them dies, they all die. You know, we have seen that. We've seen how powerful her authority is. And then Greed, as an individual, we don't know much about his ability thus far besides what we saw at the beginning of Season 2. But we know for a fact he's definitely going to be very powerful. He's definitely going to be a star player within this arc. Because, I mean, the opening song literally ends like this. Like, I want to showcase it. You literally have, like, the ending of the opening ending where Emilia is captured. Subaru and Beatrice is coming in. And you see Regulus holding Emilia that's unconscious like a princess. And as they're rushing him down, Subaru is about to grab Emilia. And as he's about to grab Emilia, Subaru uses Return by Death. So it says in this moment, at least with the opening visuals alone, that upon Subaru even trying to get close to Regulus Corneus here, he died. Like, he straight up died when he got close to him, and then he got reset back here. It goes back through the whole opening scene backwards. So whatever's going on there, it is definitely hinting at whatever Regulus is doing, showcasing how powerful he is, that, like, we didn't even see what he did, but Subaru died in that moment. So yeah, pretty cool stuff, honestly. I really do like the showcasing of, what the opening has to give. Now, shifting gears into the ending song. Oh, okay. I don't know which one I like more. I'm gonna have to listen to both of them on repeat often. But visually speaking, I would definitely say that, this is a better visual department of the the songs for ReZero Season 3. Because I love what this sequence looks like here. Like, it straight up looks like the water is just gone dark and slime, sludge, evil. It looks like malice. That is the emotion you get. Because, like, you can't tell me you can't see this aura, which looks very reminiscent of, like, Wrath. Like, we saw her aura and fire within the episode. It looks like her magic, like this wrath and malice aura leaking out from the city, and the water's grown dark and black and grimy, like it's just straight up evil itself. I love the visual department, like the symbolic nature of what this means, that the city that was once beautiful, vibrant, lifeful, has so many colors, flowing water that was beautiful and very clean, has turned to sludge and slime and evil, and like, you can literally see the showcasing of like the core difference of what the environment's supposed to look like here, and I love that, the visual department showcasing what it's going to look like and what it currently looks like. It's so good, man. Like, they seriously cooked. Like, legitimately, those that worked on these visuals, they cooked super freaking hard for ReZero this season. One scene in particular that does stand out to me, though, with the ending song, I love some of these Sin Archbishops, how they're introduced as well, and how they appear in the fight. It's so good, man. Like, we even get, like, a little scene here as well. Like, I want to find Priscilla, because Priscilla's scene is... Holy crap, her scene's so good. Like, I'm trying to find it. Is this her scene? So, I was mistaken. It wasn't in the ending song. It was actually in the opening song, actually. It's this scene here with Priscilla, where you see her surrounded by the, like, witch's cult. And as she's surrounded, this animation sequence, man. Yo. This goes so hard. It goes so freaking hard. I can't wait, man. Like, Priscilla is... She's stacked, bro. That's all I'm gonna say. Anyways, let's shift into the actual episode. I mean, how long have I been recording here? Let me pull this up. Oh my goodness, I've been recording for like 30 minutes. I know I'm gonna have to cut out some stuff, but yeah, I've just been talking about the censorship, to the overall concerns of the battle, to just like the opening and ending song, and I've spent like 15, 20 maybe minutes of this video when it's edited already talking about that. So enough is enough. Let's talk about the episode. So, getting into actually what this episode showcases, let's get into how Subaru tackles these issues. How he tackles dealing with the Sin Archbishop of Wrath. So, Subaru's learned a lot since, like, Season 1 and Season 2. He realizes how weak he is. He realizes that he needs a lot of people to rely on, and a lot of people rely on him as well. It's a mutual relationship, and he definitely wants to use anything at his disposal to overcome a core issue that he's facing. And so you see multiple different ways he tries to handle the situation. For instance, he goes and he tries to inform this man about, like, hey, the witch's cult's coming in, and, like, you need to summon Reinhard. And this was something that was set up in the first episode, so it's a nice flow from the content of episode 1 into episode 2, that Subaru's using his deduction skills of, like, okay, how can he use what's at his disposal right now to be able to overcome this current situation. And in this case, obviously, he knows that Reinhardt's incredibly overpowered. He can overcome, like, authorities or anything he really wants because of just how his divine protections are. And so he obviously asks, like, this man to shoot up a fireball or some magic to be able to get Reinhardt to come over and help out. It sounds very logical. It's the best thing to really do. I mean, it's like, why wouldn't you call in basically the tactical nuke to deal with another tactical nuke? It's just like, makes perfect sense. Reinhardt is legitimately super, super powerful, so he is definitely someone that I would instantly want to call into the fight if I actually could. So obviously Subaru tries to rally Reinhardt to get over here and help out, and I like how he actually has a full-blown conversation with this man, and like, he instantly believes Subaru because Subaru is someone that has made a name for himself. He took down the Sin Archbishop of Sloth, which, reminder for everyone that doesn't remember this, thanks to the aftermath of Season 1 and what Gluttony did to Rim, all the credit that would have been shared between Rim and Subaru was fully given to Subaru. So everybody legitimately thinks that Subaru, like, took down the White Well, basically, and Subaru was the one that, obviously fully took down Sloth as well, all by himself. So it's just like, when you factor in these different accomplishments and stuff that he's kind of like made for himself, it makes sense why people would believe him. And this showcases his development from Season 1, because it's like, in Season 1, when he made let's be blunt, an ass of himself in front of the entire royal court when in the throne room, everybody thought he was a joker. He was a clown. He was just a fool. And nobody would believe him or trust him because of just how he was. He was basically a regular peasant. But now, thanks to his multiple achievements and his actions and what he's done to correct his image, he is definitely a lot more trustworthy in the eyes of the common folk. And so, instantly having someone, even if they're not necessarily a good person or a shady character, knowing that Subaru has had an encounter with the witch's cult and has taken one down, it is plausible why someone would believe Subaru and he's like, the witch's cult's coming. So, yeah, I just like how we have the content from Season 1 playing such a huge part to the development of how everyone within the world of ReZero views Subaru's character. They view him in a very positive light now. Even if they view him as weak or, like, I guess can't do much or pathetic, it's because of that why people respect him, because he's still able to do all these incredible things despite all of that. So Reinhardt enters the scene and puts his hand on Subaru and everyone else's shoulders, and he completely dispels the curse and hex that's been placed on them, even if it's momentarily brief, because eventually Subaru and everybody else is taken back in by the soul washing of Sirius Romanicante's authority. It's still a very impressive feat that Reinhardt is able to get rid of curses and stuff, because Beatrice can't do that. As what was stated, remember, this is what was stated, that Beatrice can't really remove a curse. Once a curse is, like, really in effect, it can't really be removed easily. Like, it really can't at all. And so, because of that, it shows just how powerful Reinhardt is, and how he really is the right guy for a tactical nuke versus a tactical nuke. But in this case, Reinhardt is someone that is a little bit too powerful for this given situation, because we saw that at the end of the fight. I'll get into that in just a moment. But basically, Subaru, he gets, his mind back briefly, and he has he allows Reinhardt to fight Sirius. And we see this brief clash between the characters, Sirius and Reinhardt going after each other. Sirius is using chains. Reinhardt's, like, saying that her chains are a pain. And you're probably wondering to yourself, thinking, why isn't Sirius using her fire magic? We saw her very malefic fire magic at the end of the episode when she was using it against Emilia. So why is she not using it against Reinhardt? Well, Beatrice said it herself in this episode. When Reinhardt enters the room, he is him. He is that guy. He is someone that has the world literally bow down to him and say, "You are God. We love you." And because of that, magic bows to you. When you enter the room, nobody can use magic probably but yourself. And that is legitimately insane. It is actually insane. Because it's like, despite obviously Sirius's kit probably being 50, maybe 70% nerfed in this fight against Reinhardt, she still does put up a very brief, but kind of long in terms of battles against Reinhardt, puts up a pretty good fight. And this just does go to showcase just how strong Sirius Romanicanti is to be able to fight Reinhardt even more than 5 seconds. That's ridiculous. Now, even though it's clear that Reinhardt would win in the end, we saw how it ended. Because of Reinhardt being a good sword, a very powerful and sharp blade, he was not the answer for this situation. Because when Sirius dies, anyone that was connected with her authority with the soul washing died along with her. And it's clear that even despite him looking and appearing to be perfect, being someone that is overwhelming and can have pretty much countless divine productions, he makes mistakes. And I think that this is a good scene to showcase that the perfect character is not as perfect as we thought. There is a blemish on Reinhardt now, that he can't do everything. He does make mistakes. This is a good scene. This humanizes Reinhardt a lot as a character. This humanizes him and let us know that despite him being very powerful, he does have the answers for everything. I like that. I like where Tape put this in terms of writing when he did this in the web novel, the light novel, and now in the anime. It's a good scene. And we already were seeing showcasings of Reinhardt not being a perfect person in the previous episode of ReZero, with the whole conversation with Wilhelm, his grandfather, and Reinhardt, before Heinkel interrupted and had that whole drama happen with Priscilla. Which I think is the next part to really segue into, is the Priscilla and Emilia scene. Because it's very brief, but I think that it is a very important scene to really discuss, because it says a lot about Priscilla's character. So this Priscilla scene is very telling about her character. That at this point in time with this episode, we know Subaru's died about 3 times, thanks to Sirius Romanicanti. And with her reaction, it's very clear she becomes aware of something. We don't necessarily get any dialogue or anything like that, but it's all off screen. What we do know is that Emilia, thanks to whatever Priscilla says to her, Emilia runs after Subaru to try to help him in this given situation, and she basically says, I'm not taking no for an answer, I'm going to help you out, regardless of the situation, because it's not just you that is affiliated with the witch's cult, it's also me, thanks to my past, what's happened to my family, and just what, it means for me even to be a royal candidate. She's gonna have to come in contact constantly with potential witch cultists and be able to bring them to justice. But getting back into the Priscilla stuff, Priscilla tells Emilia, very briefly, if you don't follow after him, you are going to regret it. And this line of dialogue from Priscilla, of all characters, says a lot about her, because we gotta think about what we have seen from her brief moments from the anime. We've seen her in Season 1, and we've seen her now with some content within Season 3. The content in Season 1, she became, or how she was introduced, she was a character that felt very self-important. She presented herself as she was the most important thing in the world, everybody should bow to her, all those different type of, emotions you should feel about Priscilla. That's at least how her character was presented in the first season. And we saw that with how she interacts with people around her, she will create situations that cause trouble, drama, or to push the ball down a different narrative direction. Let's think about what Priscilla caused in Season 1 for a second. So Subaru had a brief encounter with her in Season 1, he gave her an apple, he tried to save her and all that, and she was obviously capable of saving herself, but it doesn't change the fact that Subaru tried to save her, it was very interesting to her, and thanks to Subaru's connection with Emilia, another royal candidate, Priscilla got in her head, she wanted to meddle with things, make things a little bit more interesting, and so she was the one that brought Subaru into the throne room to cause that whole drama and catastrophe that happened, to where basically everybody looked at Subaru like a fool, looked at Subaru like he was just a complete and utter dumbass. That's what the entirety of the throne room looked at Subaru as. On top of that, it completely tarnished and ruined Emilia's image to a degree to where people might not be able to take her as seriously as a strong leader, because Subaru was obviously extremely pathetic, and if Emilia can't keep someone like this in line that's very pathetic and weak, then she definitely would not be able to, let's say, rule a kingdom. That's what you could gather from the first season of ReZero. Priscilla's meddling in turn affected Subaru and Emilia's relationship, but also how the kingdom in general views Emilia and Subaru. However, thanks to Priscilla's actions is the reason and cause to why Subaru is so well known in the kingdom now. Thanks to the intervention of Priscilla, Subaru has went on to make countless feats, facing off against Sloth, taking down the White Well, also doing what he did with the White Rabbit in Season 2, which was named to the entire public. So you look at all these different type of details, it's very clear that even if it wasn't intentional at the first moment when Priscilla did it, she did get the ball moving in an interesting direction, where Subaru was able to make headway with his character, develop as a person, and allow him to come to an understanding with Emilia as a person as well. So there was a lot there. So looking at this situation here, Priscilla intervening and talking to Emilia and saying, if you don't chase after him, you're going to regret it, you could chop this up to a few things. Priscilla's wanting to cause mischief, and she's wanting to just make an interesting scene. Or there's more to her than meets the eye, and she knows things that we're kind of unaware of. Whatever the case may be, Priscilla obviously is a very important character, and she's always there when things are incredibly dire or something needs to shift with the story. So that's what she did in this episode. I feel like it's a scene that's very underrated, not talked about much, and it shows a lot about her character with very, very brief scenes. And actually, in particular, what I'm going to talk about is this scene with her reaction when Subaru walks off, because I think that this is very important. You see where her face actually is in the focus here, and she has kind of like a subtle frownish type of expression, and it's a completely distinct look, because usually she's always smiling, she's always looking like she knows everything, but her look is of concern, and this is very good character acting. Like, the staff at White Fox that's working on ReZero, even if the team and management has shifted around to a degree since Season 1 aired, it's very clear that the vibe and the ideology of ReZero lives on even into Season 3, with these very brief scenes telling a lot about characters without even dialogue. And I love to see it, because even though the season is focused on battle-orientated stuff, like action and all that, they clearly know what's important as well when it comes to the slice of life or very subtle talking moments. And it's like this. So, just great scene overall. So, let's move forward to the next stuff that happened. Now, I want to talk about this scene with Beatrice for a second, because I think that this is also extremely important. It's kind of a follow-up to the Priscilla stuff, that, people around Subaru now at this time and point are starting to trust what he says. No matter what he says, even if there is no logical reason he should know these things, like he should know that the witches cult's going to appear, that, Sirius Romanicanti is there, regardless of all the details that he pours out of his mouth, you have people around him trusting his words at face value. And it shows how far he's come as a person to where people can really trust him. But it doesn't just stop there. It's very clear that a lot of characters around Subaru are becoming more and more increasingly aware that there is something off about him. Even if they don't know he has returned by death, they know that he has something. Either foresight, clairvoyance, something. He's getting his information somewhere. And it's very clear that a lot of people, his close friends, have come to realize this, and they will take his words extremely seriously when his overall demeanor changes, like does a complete 180. Because we gotta look at the context of Subaru's current loop. Dying at the clock tower to Sirius, and then spawning in front of the Bard. At first he seemed very bubbly, very happy. He was doing songs and talking to Priscilla and all that type of stuff. And then suddenly he's like, I'm gonna be sick, and he's gonna throw up, and he's getting a very serious expression with his very scary eyes. It's a completely different, emotion. 180 to Subaru's character. And so everybody that's close to Subaru can instantly click in that something's going on. There's something really off right now with Subaru, and they know something serious is about to happen. And obviously Emilia caught that, obviously Beatrice caught that, and I think that Priscilla, it's very clear she caught that as well. The only one that probably was not in the loop that didn't realize it was probably the Bard. Now, let's actually continue on with this conversation with Subaru being trusted. Emilia showing up and offering her assistance regardless if Subaru says no or not. This is a follow-up to her development from Season 2. We know Emilia was a very important part of Season 2 with her development, with her unlocking her memories, remembering everything that happened to her family, her village, her connection with Puck, to, Petlugius, to Fortuna. She learned a lot. She, obviously what happened with, Regulus Corneus, Pandora, there's a lot that Emilia has remembered thanks to Season 2. She's unlocked a lot of memories, she's become stronger-willed, she isn't this innocent ice princess anymore, she is capable of protecting and doing things on her own. And Subaru doesn't always need to be the one only suffering and doing stuff for her, she's able to take to the field and do things as well. And in this case, this episode perfectly showcases the development that Emilia has gotten since Season 2, with her literally facing off against, Wrath itself in this episode. She has a full-on brawl, and she's taking the awful, heinous words that Sirius is saying to her and not allowing it to affect her. She's like, I'm not upset that you're calling me a half-devil, a half-elf, or whatever. I'm upset that you're making fun or, actually mocking the people that believe in me, aka Subaru, that gave her the words of encouragement that said that, she's a perfect woman, he loves her a lot, and all these different type of things. Those words harbor a lot of importance to her. And Sirius trying to mock her and all that type of stuff, Emilia doesn't like that. So she takes out her anger, showcasing that she isn't trying to be goody-goody two-shoes. She will take initiative and, deal with problems that she faces as well. I like this. It's really good to showcase Emilia's character development and how far she's come. She is not a quiet, meek person that needs to be directed to where to go. Subaru doesn't need to, direct her. He can allow Emilia to make her own decisions, which was the main importance of Season 2, which I'm going to remind everybody of that. So, remember, the main objective of Season 2 was that Subaru was in a loop, a situation, to where he could not accomplish the death loop without believing in someone being able to get us out of the death loop. For instance, Emilia was facing echidna's trials. She had to face these trials, and we saw through multiple loops in Season 2 that she was not capable of defeating those loops, okay? And thanks to a lot of hellish trial and error, eventually she did overcome them. But the point is that Subaru was beating his head up against the wall, trying to do everything for Emilia, answer all the questions, do everything for her, but that was not the answer. Emilia had to overcome it on her own without the help of Subaru, which showcased that Emilia is capable of accomplishing things on her own, but also she has independence. She won't have to overly rely on Subaru. And if you don't know, there is a what-if story. A what-if story if Subaru would have defeated that loop and, did everything for Emilia. And in that, actual what-if story that Tappe himself officially wrote, Emilia becomes completely independent to Subaru. She'll listen to every word he says, basically becomes a shell of who she really is. She's no longer the Emilia that anyone knows. She's just a shell of a person. And she will listen to everything Subaru says like he's a literal god, which is depressing. So when you factor that in, Emilia has become a lot stronger and powerful, not just physically, but mentally. So yeah, like I said, ReZero, man, it's such a good piece of fiction. I absolutely love the writing in this series. So, wrapping everything up, because this video is already getting extremely long, ReZero, man, it never ceases to amaze me with how high quality it is, with its writing, to the character details, the character, just moments of showcasing the development, the music, the voice acting, the uncensored nature of it. There's a lot to love, honestly, and no matter how many times I continue to watch a new episode of ReZero, I continuously get more and more impressed with just the level of quality that is poured into the show. It is not a normal series. It's not. Normal anime don't get the level of detail and attention that ReZero gets. And what's crazy is I know ReZero is popular. I know it makes money. But it's definitely not, like, the most popular of all time. And even despite that, it's very clear that White Fox really loves ReZero. They love this series to death. And they want to make this very good. And I'm glad to see just such passionate people behind the project. Because I've seen where a series can get a second season, a third season, a fourth season, and you could just see the quality degrade over time. But that's clearly not been the case. In fact, this episode of ReZero, hands down, might be in the top 5 best episodes of the entirety of ReZero thus far. All I'll say. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching. May you all be safe and stay healthy. And I'll see you tomorrow for whatever video I make. Chibi out.